All right, everyone. Welcome to Nothing But Worry with your two hosts, Lance Ash and
Mrs. Lance Ash.
Okay, funny. All right. So we're doing this about 24 hours early. This is early Friday morning. Normally we'd do this late Friday evening. But I've been on vacation all week. And not only was it Thanksgiving, but it's also my birthday this week. Sometimes my birthday actually falls on Thanksgiving. Anyway, so let's start off by asking Bonnie, what's going on today?
Not a damn thing.
Okay. Well, have we had a good vacation so far?
I imagine you have. You didn't have to go to that horrible place.
Yeah. We had Sunday.
8 for dinner.
Was it 8 people? Okay. 8 total. So Sunday we had sort of a combination Thanksgiving and my birthday get together here, and Bonnie laid out a huge buffet of different things to eat, and our daughter brought some chocolates, and my mother-in-law brought a rum cake. That's not what
Apricot brandy.
Apricot brandy cake.
And Reed brought macaroni and cheese.
And yes, right. And Reed also brought macaroni and cheese, which was nowhere near as good as Bonnie's.
No.
But it was all right. I just think it could have been a little more texture to it. I don't like it when macaroni and cheese is too soft. So what else has been going on?
Well, that was a lot. That Sunday night too. We had a lot of food.
Yeah. So I've been getting some painting and drawing done. Playing the guitar a little bit.
The house is pristine.
Yeah, we cleaned the house up in preparation for the get-together, and now it looks really, really good.
I'm having a hard time finding dust anywhere. I guess if I got up on a ladder, I could find some.
Mm-hmm. I dusted a little bit in my room. Those shelves are just caked in it.
I realized I'd left the dust spray and dust cloths on a shelf in my room when you were giving the grand tour.
Let me think. My mind is drawing a blank now. Oh dear, Bonnie's made a big batch of food for me to nibble on later. She made 2 quiches,
I used
which
a lot of leftovers from the party.
yeah.
We had small cherry tomatoes and I sliced those up, and I finished off a bag of the spinach and some vegan sausages, and I used up one of those red onions. I put in about 10 eggs and made 2 quiche.
So I've had about half of one, and she made Indian soup and some rice. The rice is gone now. I'm going to finish the soup off at some point.
Pumpkin pie.
Pumpkin pie.
And some apple bread stuffed with apple.
Yeah, like
That could have been better, I think.
I haven't tried it yet.
Next time I should cook the apples down some, because they were only in the stove for about 16 minutes, maybe 20 minutes at the most. And so they were still, in my opinion, a little bit too firm. But when you put the drizzle across the top of them, it really completes them. It's very nice, so do use that.
All right. God, I can't. Oh, I know something we did this week. We watched the second Dune movie, which I thought was really, really good. I need to.
I thought I was going to be disappointed.
Really?
Yeah, I did. The first one kind of fell short for me. I guess because I had come up with Dune as a complete story. It has an ending in the first original,
The David Lynch version.
Yeah. But this one, it immediately got into action. It moved at a good clip. It was informative. They didn't stay on anything for too long unnecessarily. It definitely was better than the first one.
The first by Denis Villeneuve?
Yes, the first part.
You're saying part 2 was better than that?
Part 2 is better than part 1.
I don't know. I mean, the first one was more impactful to me because it's novel and they're introducing this stuff to you fresh, all the concepts and the designs and the characters and everything. So the second one, I don't know, it was good though.
Well, the first one we had a copy that didn't have the translation. So that didn't help because we understood nothing of what was being spoken in Fremen.
Yeah, the first one we got through the streaming service, and
There was no captions at all.
a friend of mine gave me the 2-disc version for my birthday, and so anyway, a couple of days ago we watched it, and I had a really good time watching it. I went through all of our DVDs earlier tonight and was picking out some that we either have not watched at all or ones we're not that familiar with, and thinking maybe we could have another movie night. We've got stuff right here we haven't indulged in yet.
It used to be that you and I had a habit of eating with movies, like Eat, Drink, Man, Woman, and Tampopo.
Mm-hmm.
We would always go out and get Chinese food. Or we would try to make ramen with the Tampopo, which was always a disappointment. But that was always a nice thing. One of the weird ones you found today, I've never seen it. Mystic Pizza?
I've never seen it either. I remember when it came out, it was a big deal because it was supposed to represent this generation. You know, it was like a snapshot of, and you know, that's like 30 something years ago, and it had all these actors in it who were either big at the time or they were up and coming young actors and actresses.
You remember X-Files when Mulder and Scully left? They were replaced by Doggett and Reyes. Mm-hmm. Monica Reyes is in the movie Mystic Pizza, if I recall correctly.
Oh, really?
I've never seen it, but I thought it would be a nice chance. I've been meaning to try the vegan pizza at Mellow Mushroom. Mm-hmm. Now that I can't handle any cheese. So the only reason I agreed to watch Mystic Pizza was to have an excuse to get that vegan pizza.
Okay, all right.
Now, what else was there? Sweet Smell of Success.
Sweet Smell of Success, which we've seen 2 or 3 times before.
So what should we eat with that?
That,
New York
a double shot of
nightclubs
bourbon and a cigarette. That's what you...
And they also have some beatnik clubs in there, as well as New York after-hours clubs.
Yeah.
So what would we eat?
I don't know. Late 50s New York, black and white, jazz. I don't know.
Please don't say casserole.
Casserole?
The whole 1950s casserole.
That's
Jello molds.
That's domestic homemaker type
Gelatin
50s.
molds,
Yeah. We're talking about, you know,
martinis.
reefers and martinis and, you know,
Pickled onion.
the only housewife type or stereotypical 50s housewife thing would be, you know, pills, uppers and downers, and you know.
I could do that. I used my fucking last Xanax the other week.
There's a famous, or not famous, but there's an old Jules Feiffer cartoon about this woman who she takes uppers so that when her husband comes home from work, she'll be bright and cheerful and everything that he expects her to be. But she's so hyped up on that when it's time to go to bed, she has to take downers to go to bed. And finally, she runs out of pills, and she's just this shabby old beaten down housewife with curlers in her hair and a house coat on. And she said, "This morning I woke up and my husband saw me and he said, 'Who are you and what have you done with Dorothy?'" So, Mother's Little Helper, that was Stone's song based on that whole thing. That was a thing back then. Valium and amphetamines, it's up and down. Well, let's see. What can we talk about? The destruction of the American federal government continues apace. Because people think, well, the government's bad and we don't need any of the functions that it performs. Well, okay, let's see how will you get along without what the government does for you.
Bird flu's on the rise, just in time for the new administration to come in with their anti-science policy.
Mm-hmm. And anti-vaccine and anti-research, and clearly this is the work of witches.
So you know what happens with bird flu? It's oftentimes a culling. That means the price of eggs is going to go up, up, up. And all those people who sold out democracy over the price of eggs.
Yeah.
We'll get their comeuppance.
Yeah, and it'll be well, Biden should have taken care. Oh, Biden and Harris together, because apparently she's just as important to the administration. They should have taken care of this bird flu thing before Trump took office. Now it's gotten out of hand too much, and Trump can't handle it with. That's exactly what they're going to. They're going to blame this on the previous administration.
The funny thing is, COVID came along, and they call it COVID-19. It merged the end of 2019. I think it was 2 years prior to that. Trump dismantled the pandemic response team that had been put into place by Obama. And the only thing they could figure out as to why he undid it is because Obama.
Yeah.
So we were lacking thousands of people that were trained to deal with a pandemic and knew what pandemic measures to undertake.
Mm-hmm.
They had them on the go, they had plans detailed, and Trump dismantled the thing. And one of the big things that Trump plans to do, and Trump 2.0, is to dismantle all these different actions and groups of government. And we're going to see the effects of it. The latest thing over the weekend was the McMahon woman from the wrestling thing.
Unbelievable.
She's going to be the Secretary of Education. They're already talking about how she's planning to dismantle the Department of Education, undo it. This is something that was put into place and created by Jimmy Carter, by the way.
Education? I thought it came about during the Johnson administration.
Department of Education. And
Are you sure?
Jimmy Carter had been governor of Georgia. And while he was governor of Georgia, he had come from a very rural area down south. He did not represent the standard idea of what governance was in the state of Georgia. So when he came in, he had a very skewed approach to looking at things. Instead of being urban-based, he was very much rural-based. And one of the things that he tackled here at the state level was equity in education. We have 159 counties, I think it is, in Georgia, and each of them have their own Department of Education, county board of education. And at the time, they were reliant upon property taxes solely, I believe it was. And that meant that if you were down in Taylor County, and it's a very rural, very divided, very poor county, cotton heavy, soybeans, things like that, you had low property values from which to draw your education funding for your county. Whereas Fulton County and DeKalb County, you have had these large homes and large property taxes that funded the schools. And there was this great difference between the rural and the urban areas. And so in the state of Georgia, Jimmy Carter said, we need to address this. We need to provide funding. We need to do whatever is necessary. And so they ended up having state funds put into local school boards, and it brought about equity, and they had across the board standards, etc. So when he became president, he's like, we need to ensure that there is parity for education across the board. Let's get the Department of Education set up, and we're going to set up a funding scheme so that people apply and they get grants based on need, and we're going to fund every school out there, and we're going to ensure that people have an equal access to education. And then followed Jimmy Carter, Reagan. The rise of the private schools it was booming at that point. A lot of fundamentalists came to power with Reagan, and there was a big push on promoting Christian Education 2.0. First time it had been under the guise of Christian education, but it was in reality a response to the whole desegregation, etc. So there's a big push back in the 80s for education, for fundamentalist religious training, etc. And so you had a big push to get funding at some level for these private schools, and the battle began then about moving funds from a federal funds to support private education and instead of public.
Well, the Department of Energy was created under Carter too. Have they already done away with that?
No, they haven't. Who was the guy from Texas he ran? He was one of the...
Oh, that's right.
Guys. He was talking about doing away with the Department of Energy, and then I think it was Trump had him in as
Briefly, yeah.
his Department of Education, Energy.
No, Bush Jr. had that guy. It was he was the governor of Texas. Was it Rick Perry?
Yes, that sounds right.
That's right.
And, yeah. But no, he didn't dismantle it, because once he got in there, the energy companies came to them and they said, wait a minute, hold off. We like the system as it is because we receive funding from the government. We get a lot of handouts. And so, yeah, we don't want this dismantled. And in order for us to remain as productive as we would like to be and to have as many profits as we'd like to have for our shareholders, let's keep the Department of Energy. I don't know that there's any talk anymore about dismantling the Department of Energy. That was just a big thing that came out again as a result of, let's pare down big government. Education is going to be a problem. If they dismantle it, there's going to be a lot of protections for handicapped kids that will be taken away. I think they said funding is $60,000 a year.
Well, not only that,
for education of a disabled child.
But a lot of the supposed rationale that they're giving for all this shit they want to do is, well, we're going to return it to the states. Well, a lot of the states are bumfuck illiterate, wastelands, and the people who live in those states, they're not going to have any kind of education worth of shit. People who live in
Oklahoma and Mississippi, for example.
Right, the people who live in New York and New England, and Chicago, they're going to continue to receive a better education. Is that what they really want? I guess so, because the idiots vote Republican every time.
Red states traditionally are recipient states. Blue states traditionally donor states. That is, the blue states are the ones that are putting money into the federal treasury. The red states are the ones that are taking money from the federal treasury. They're looking for handouts. And if the Department of Education is done away with, those handouts from the federal level are not going to be happening. So the red states will suffer the most.
Yeah.
And it ensures the type of idiocy that keeps red state voters voting Republican.
Several years ago, on NPR, they had a story about budget cuts at some school, and they were thinking about shutting down the sports program at some school, and all these parents were up in arms about it. And they went to the school to have a rally or something, and one of the fathers there said to the NPR reporter, I'd rather they did away with the math and science programs, but let us keep football. This is the priorities of the average American person.
In Texas, outside of Dallas, is a relatively wealthy suburb. And several years ago, they built a football stadium that cost more than $20 million.
Yeah.
A football stadium for a high school team.
Yeah, think of how many labs they could have built with that money. Think how many...
how many language programs, how many arts programs, how many music programs, how many mathematics tutoring courses they could have had.
But you see, the parents live vicariously through their children.
But that's the thing. They could have also had home economics and industrial arts. They could have had shop classes. They could have had things that address the needs of those working class folks whose kids probably won't go to college, or if they do, it's a tech school.
Well, a lot of these fathers in particular are so deluded that they think, well, my son has a modicum of athletic ability, and if I can, make him a star at the high school level, then maybe he can get a college scholarship, and out of that he can turn pro and buy me a big house. That's the thinking of a lot of these idiots.
Yeah, because they know that the lottery isn't going to pay off.
We've
given up.
I haven't played the lottery in weeks and weeks,
Months.
and I just, I'll probably go through a phase again where I play, but that's the way it is with a lot of things. You go through phases.
Another thing that happened this week is that the Mexican president, a woman, by the way.
Oh, keep talking. I'm gonna go get a cup of tea. Just keep talking. That'll be good right there.
The Mexican president addressed the immigration issue, and it was in response to the tariffs, etc. And she was talking about how the tariffs are going to hurt both sides of the border. In Mexico, they provide a lot of parts for our automakers, and in return, they also provide a lot of produce, etc. So if the tariffs hit, they're going to be having the local car companies here in America, the Made in America cars, require parts that are made in Mexico, and it's going to force the price up.
You got a coaster somewhere?
Look, use one of those bowls.
Okay.
That is a coaster. Sit down.
The other night we painted posters and played some records by the coasters. That's a song by Frank Zappa called Status Back Baby.
Okay.
It's about how important status is when you're in high school. You're standing amongst your classmates.
Any doo-wop references in there?
Probably.
Wasn't that what he was brought up on?
Yeah, he was a big doo-wop fan. Apparently he had a huge record collection, a lot of old obscure 45s of doo-wop groups that had one hit and that was it. Oh, Lord. Well, years ago, when the kids were little, we took a family trip to Charleston, South Carolina. And on that trip, we found this burrito place. And we were in there eating, and this song came over the radio. And I had heard it before at that point, maybe once before. And I thought, this is a really good song. But I never could quite remember what it was called. I kept thinking it was called something like Witchy Woman or something like that. But anyway, I found it tonight. It's Green Eyed Lady by Sugarloaf, their only substantial hit, 1970. And I thought, let's listen to this. Well, I thought there was an instrumental breakdown in the middle where that bass that bass line, dominates. And I listened to the whole thing, and it's not what I remember at all. I kept thinking it was a song by the Guess Who, but who knows? I think I'm right. Oh dear.
That burrito joint, the thing I remember most about it, other than an enormous tray filled with a couple dozen types of hot sauces, was the soda. We were at sea level, and the carbonation was perfect. It was a Coca-Cola, and it had the right amount of bubbles in it. It was absolutely lovely.
Bonnie's one of these people who prefers fountain drinks to drinks out of a can or a bottle. And I've never seen any damn difference. But anyway, is it because of the carbonation or what?
I prefer canned drinks because that's the only place I can get it consistently good carbonation.
Mm-hmm.
And then second is fountain, and bottles just don't cut it.
Well, I've pretty much given up on soda pop.
Oh, I have too. The last time we had anything carbonated was at our little shindig, and it was fruit juice, carbonated fruit juice.
Mm-hmm.
But before then, I can't tell you what month was the last time I had a soda.
I got an idea. Why don't you let me use the photograph of our shindig for the photo for this video?
Yeah, it was taken on an old phone. It was only one person who happened to capture a picture of it. But yeah, it's bad quality, but yeah, you're welcome to it.
Yeah, let's do that.
And it's just part of it. It's the main table.
So Bonnie,
Off to the side, I also had bread and spreads and a drinks area with coffee and hot tea and water and the carbonated fruit juice. And then on the stove we had black bean soup and macaroni and cheese. And then we had desserts on another
that's true.
area.
Yeah, it doesn't capture the full array of stuff to eat that we had that day.
But there was quite a lot of it. Just on one table.
The table that's in the picture that I'll be using for this video, Bonnie calls her kitchen island. It was a table.
A desk.
Oh, was it a desk originally?
It was a desk that came from the Farm Bureau over in Madison County. And the person who used it was very short, so they had cut the table legs down. So when I tried to use it as an art desk, it was too small for my knees to go under. And so I got to thinking about what to do with this wooden desk. And it was just a huge work surface of wood, and then a very large single drawer that came out. And I decided that I would lift it up and turn it into a kitchen island. And so I went and I bought a 4x8 piece of wood, had it cut to size so that the table legs sit exactly on top of this piece of wood. And then underneath that, having secured that wood to those legs, underneath that, I then added 4x4s to lift it up to counter height. So it's the same height as the counters in the kitchen.
And amazingly, she stained all this stuff so that it matches the original wood, and it looks really, really good.
And that giant drawer that's underneath the desk, it's a single drawer, also made of wood for a wood handle. It fits all of my cutting boards and my rolling pins in there perfectly. And then underneath the table where I put that piece of board, I had that 4x8 cut custom. I have my cookbooks between the legs on 3 sides, and then nestled in on the 4th side and towards the middle, behind the cookbooks, are serving platters and specialty platters. Like whenever we do Chinese takeout, I have the soup spoons that you would be given in the Chinese restaurant. I have the dipping bowls that you have for different sauces. I have other specialty things down there. So it's worked out beautifully. And then the gap underneath that final piece of board is large enough that I store the 25-pound bags of bread flour and the 25-pound bags of rice. So it's worked out beautifully. And countertop, I have on it, I used it to make the pastries tonight for the apples, and we keep a cake platter on there. And then I have a variety of different, like I keep my onions, some of my onions there, and I keep towels, and I keep, what else, utensils there.
See,
So functional.
I wish our ceiling was more substantial so it could
I could
support.
have a light over it.
Yeah.
Better.
What would be
I'd also
great
like
is
to
if you
have-
built like a rack that went up against the ceiling and it was perfectly matching the table below, so that you could hang specialty pots up there, like copper pots and stuff like that up there, and have a light and everything you'd need.
Yeah, what few copper things I have are either, there's one on the wall and then the rest are on top of the fridge. But yeah, it would be nice to have someplace like that.
I wish the cabinets in the kitchen had lights underneath them. That would be very helpful.
I've considered that. They have all these strip lighting things you can get from Amazon now.
Mm-hmm.
And the reviews are just terrible. It's just cheap crap made in China.
Yeah.
So I haven't been able to, I haven't taken the risk. But I do have two small lamps on the longest counter. And then on the opposite side of the room, it's lit by the sink and the stove. So, other than the overhead.
Yeah. This Chinese company Temu burst upon the scene maybe 7-8 years ago. Anyway, and the talk at the time was, they're giving Walmart a run for their money and
Amazon.
and all this shit. Well, everything that I see by
Temu is shit.
is by Temu online is just from the kind of sites that I go to. It's just sort of sleazy pictures of women that you can get printed on metal, like a.
When they were pushing Temu initially, a lot of the online influencers, etc., were given products to try from Temu.
Right.
And a lot of them just said it doesn't cut it. I mean, I saw some that did arts and crafts stuff, and they were like, you might as well buy it at the dollar store. For all the price and quality. So, yeah, but I don't know. It's just more cheap crap coming from China.
Yeah, I think when I worked at the big facility up in Duluth, all of a sudden all this Temu stuff started coming in, and I'm like, "Ooh, what the hell is this?" And from what I could feel, they ship everything in bags.
Yep.
And from what I could feel, 90% of it was like shoes, like cheap plastic shoes.
They're big on fast fashion, cheap, fast fashion, stuff meant to last the season, even if that. And there's a lot of cheap jewelry. You wear it once or twice and then it turns green. So, crap.
Yeah, I experienced that a couple months ago. I wore something on a necklace around my neck, and I had it on like a day or two, and I had a bluish stain on my skin underneath where it had lain.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Well, what else has been going on? Oh, don't really have any topics today, except for.
I finally got to talk to Andrew, Reed's partner, at length the other day, and that was interesting because we talked a lot about business in general, not just his business, though I did have a lot of questions about the petroleum industry. So he's intelligent, he's well read, he's got to be, he is their business guru, their go-to person for trends, and he was talking about analysis of different offices they have and having to close down some because they just weren't cutting it cost-wise. I could see myself working for somebody like him if I were younger, but You know, I'm not there anymore.
I have no idea what he and Reed talk about together. I mean, I just don't.
I do.
What do they have in common? I mean, what do they bond over?
Well, it's funny. They met each other on an online dating thing, and they met at a park in a mutual safe territory, and they decided that they wanted to keep seeing each other. So she invited him back to her place, and for over a month, they talked nonstop about absolutely everything. Culturally speaking, politically speaking, they talked about education, they talked about families. They realized they had the same worldview. They had a lot of things in common. He was big into gaming. She was big into sci-fi. So over the course of time, she has introduced him to different series that she likes. He had been to see a lot of the standard movies that were in the cultural mainstream, so they were able to talk about those. The funny thing is that he listens to a lot of metal music and things that you would listen to, and because we've introduced our kids to that, Reed was able to understand some of it and to relate to it. Their politics square on. I mean, they're both atheists. They're both extremely liberal progressives. He is a feminist. He supports women's rights fully. He hates the manosphere. He and she have engaged in going out to eat at different places and trying new things. Our daughter is an Anglophile, and despite being brought up a vegetarian, she has adopted a few dietary options that we don't hold to, and one of them is fish and chips.
Yeah.
And so, Andrew, being the nerd that he is, created a spreadsheet, and they tried out all the fish and chips places they could find locally, and they did analysis of them on the spreadsheet and kept a running tally. Who had the best fries? Who had the best dipping sauce? Who breaded the fish in a certain way? But they also liked going out to eat to different places and trying things other than fish and chips. When they went on the cruise together, the impetus for going on this particular cruise was that the cruise was number one for food. And they upgraded their package, not just for the drinks, but also for the food options, because they enjoy eating out. They enjoy eating well. And while they do try to split a bill, honestly, a lot of times he ends up picking up the bill because he makes 2, 3, 4 times more than she does. And, yeah.
Well,
But he wanted her to get into gaming with him. They tried out some stuff together, and she said, okay, this is interesting. So he bought her a gaming computer. Like I said, he makes a lot more than she does. And they were going to consider biking around together for a while, but that never kind of took off. But he bought them a pair of cruising bikes. And she's tried it with going to work because, she's right next to the hospital where she works. Game on nights when he is trying to work. He's one of those guys that's got the multiple computer screens up in front of him. So he'll be gaming on one thing, and he'll have a thought and add it to whatever his project is on another screen.
well, speaking of cruises, I am currently reading The Winners by Julio Cortázar. And I read it for the first time, according to what I wrote on the inside of the book, I read it the first time in 1998.
Jesus.
And
So what's the premise? They all win the cruise?
well, what it's about, it was written in the late 50s, I think, maybe early 60s. And he was a South American author, but anyway, it's about a group of people who win a lottery for a free cruise on this boat. And the people who, each person who won can bring like 2 or 3 people with them. And I'm going to go ahead and give it away. I can't remember exactly what happened. A lot of the stuff I don't remember, but I do remember this. From the minute they get on the boat, weird things are going on. And the crew won't talk to them, and it's all a big mystery. And they're forbidden to go, and half the boat is off limits to them. And eventually they get pissed off and they're mad, like, what is going on? And one of the officers on the boat tells them, well, we've had an outbreak of typhus, and that's why that part of the boat is off limits. But we're going to continue to have the cruise and try to give you a good time and everything. And
you sure it was typhus?
That's what they call it, typhus 224, special variety of typhus.
Because that's carried by boogies.
By boogies. What are boogies?
Bugs.
And so anyway, I know what happens. So I'll go ahead and tell you. A group of men in the group of passengers has already started sending out little teams of men down into the bowels of the ship to see if they can find a way to break into the other half of the ship.
Oh my God, how stupid is that?
And eventually what happens is violence breaks out because they get so tired of being cooped up and not told anything was going on that they break into the other half of the ship and they hurt somebody or something. And it turns out that there really was an outbreak of typhus on board the boat and that the crew was really trying to do their best for them, but the passengers broke the rules and screwed everything up.
Oh God.
I think somebody gets killed. I can't wait to finish it.
If I recall correctly, it's lice that spread that disease.
Lice spreading typhus?
Yeah, I think it is.
Isn't it the same thing as typhoid fever?
No, typhoid is spread by water, bacterium.
I thought it was a different name for the same thing.
No, it's not.
I don't know then.
Been a long time since I had an infectious disease class, but I think that's what it was.
Well, let's see how long we've been talking. 42 minutes.
My throat's raw.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we should wrap it up.
We've been doing this for 42 minutes. I think we can.
All right, is there anything else we need to say?
We can do this again.
Yeah. I'm dreading going back to work. Because I've totally slacked off on my routine. So I'll be in pain when I go back.
I may need to give you $2 or $4 so you can go buy a lottery ticket.
No.
The tradition is
No.
buy a lottery ticket to avoid going back to work.
That's true. We'll see.
But we should make another exception. If it crosses the $1 billion mark, which it will
That's
next
true.
year.
That's true.
Because I think the tickets are going from $2 to $4. What, in April?
5, you said.
I don't remember. Was it 2 to 4? 2 to 5?
You said it was going up to 5.
You have a poor memory.
No, I don't have a poor memory.
You have a terrible memory.
That's not true at all, folks. Don't listen to her. I don't know this woman. She doesn't know me.
We've never seen each other. Oh, anyway. So, it's probably going to go over the $1 billion mark.
Oh, yeah.
Once they get that level. Whatever it is.
But I'm not spending $5
$4.
once a week. I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah. There will be people who do it, though. It's like when you were working at that convenience store 30, 40 years ago. They were buying $50 of tickets all at once.
Oh, yeah.
People are crazy as fuck. Then they wonder why they're poor. It's a tax on poverty is what it is.
No.
Desperation.
All right, so I guess we're going to call it quits, and I'll find that picture.
Quits.
All right. See you later, everybody. Bye-bye.
Quits.